Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 45 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choi. What's up? So this week's something that I love is a wide enough far left lane on the freeway. You know, a far left lane that doesn't have that guard wall rail up alongside of it. I've never hit this wall before, and you see this close to the left wall more often during construction, but I don't want to have to pay that close attention when I'm driving. Anyway, for more about this podcast, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. The Instagram handle is peoplewelovepodcast, and you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam Choit, my name, if you want to follow me. That's ADAMCHOIT. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is stand-up comedian Brent Sullivan. Born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan, he also attended the University of Michigan. He's opened for David Cross and Bob Odenkirk, been on the Pete Holmes Show, and been on Conan. But Brent also grew up on Seinfeld, the show, and the stand-up comedy of the man himself, Jerry Seinfeld. So from Ann Arbor to New York City to LA, and now in the studio with me here, here's the gay Rodney Dangerfield himself, Brent Sullivan. So it's good to see you today, Brent Sullivan.
Good to see you too, man.
Thanks so dropping by the studio.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me by the studio.
Thank you. How's your day been?
I've been doing pretty good. I had a vaguely productive day, and I went to the gym.
Yeah.
I just had burgers, which I made at home.
Does that negate your workout, or is that protein for your
workout? It's protein. That's a great question. Yeah, and I did start doing, this is instantaneously, I sound unredeeming, but I did start doing like a clean bulk recently, which is eating more calories, so I will actually show progress at the gym.
What do you mean? You're trying to gain weight? I'm
trying to gain muscle. I've been working out for like a decade, and if you charted my progress, it's just a straight line.
Yeah,
I literally look exactly the same as when I was
I saw you.
25.
I think I saw you 6 months ago, and you look exactly the same.
Well, that's hurtful, but thank you so much.
No, I meant that as a good thing. Oh, because you're trying to. Because
I am trying to gain weight, but I'm trying to gain muscle. But I actually was going to say I started this clean bulk, and just if you eat. I've always eaten like a bird. I eat small amounts in small quantities infrequently. So, and then I was just reading online that that's the worst thing you can do if you want to actually, I guess, make gains, as the kids call them, with a Z.
Yeah.
So I started actually eating like 2,500 calories a day, and it has helped a little bit, but not that any stranger or anyone would know.
What are you doing at the gym? What kind of?
I do
bench press?
Again, this is yes.
Well, you're trying to gain weight.
I do bench press. I do PPL, which is push pull legs. So one day is push, one day is pull, and one day is legs. So which is to say 5 exercises that are push exercises. That would be usually bench press.
Yeah, press.
Press. Pull will be back. Back tricep stuff, and legs obviously is legs.
Interesting.
Never skip legs. But I literally feel like I'm turning off every one of your listeners right now.
No.
So we can. But yes, I did have there is something in LA. It's easy to feel like a piece of trash because, especially, I'm a freelancer, and so there are days where I don't actually get much of anything done.
Yeah.
And there is something about going to the gym that makes me feel like I'm actually a useful person.
No, me too. No, you feel refreshed in a way. You feel like you at least accomplished something with your body, no matter what else.
Yep.
If you accomplish nothing else in your personal life, your career, whatever, your house, apartment, things that need to get done, errands. If you don't do anything else, if you work out, you got something done.
I can put off doing my dishes for a week. But as long as I hit the gym 2 out of 3 days, I'm good.
Yeah.
Then I'm living a decent life.
Yeah, perfect. Well, speaking of your life, why don't you tell me about it, and we could start from your birth and the hospital and the drive home.
Sure, man. Born University of Michigan Hospital. I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Which have you been?
I have not.
Yeah,
I know the university is there.
Yeah, for
where
sure.
you were born.
Which is where I was born. I'm so Ann Arbor's like a college town, so it's like a very like quaint picturesque place, man.
It looks like it on the pictures.
Yeah. Did you Wikipedia it today?
No, but I've seen the fall leaves in Ann Arbor.
As I always say, University of Michigan, home of the Unabomber. That's one of our most famous alumni, I'm proud to say. Ann Arbor is just a really great town. It's a liberal, which is something I care about. It's a very liberal oasis in the middle of the Midwest. It's a real city. There's a lot of stuff to do. The restaurants are great. So it was like a great childhood. It's kind of weird liking where you're from.
Yeah, everyone I talk to, even if people like where they're from, there's always something about it that is not perfect.
Yeah.
And not that they dislike that thing. It's just like, oh, this is too big city. It's too small.
Yeah.
We were
absolutely
we were poor, whatever the case may be.
Of course, you have friends who grew up in New York and they hate New York. You have friends who grew up in Boston, they hate Boston. You have friends who grew up in a small town. They're like, I'll never go back. And so it's kind of a weird burden only because when I go home for the holidays, you're just like, everyone's living a much better life than me. Everyone has a house. I have friends who have houses. You don't need to make $800,000 a year to buy a house.
Yeah.
The beers, depending on where you go, can still be $2 some nights. Not every bar is loud and crowded.
Yeah.
Traffic is,
modest.
Modest at best. And so, I don't know. It's.
What are you doing
I would
here?
I would never go back to Michigan. But you still have those days where you're like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Why am I in this rancid, disgusting city?
Because it's great.
Right? Because it's great. My dreams. My dreams. But yeah. So it's kind of a mixed bag sometimes, liking where you're from.
I got you. So you grew
what
up?
city are you from?
I'm from Long Island.
Yeah, but which one?
Dix Hills out in Suffolk. Used to live in East Meadow also.
Okay. All right, got it.
Nassau, Suffolk.
Got it. Yeah. I don't know why I asked. I only know one city.
What? Did you have siblings? You said.
Yeah, I have one brother.
One younger, older.
He's older, 5 years older.
5 years older. Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I have an older sister.
Older sister.
A couple of years.
You guys
older.
close?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
What was life like, when you were 4, 5, 6 years old, elementary school? What do you remember from Ann Arbor? Because you said you had a perfect childhood. Was there anything that was not perfect?
I didn't.
Or tell me what was perfect.
I didn't have a perfect childhood, but I remember in early school, I was very reserved. I've actually always been really reserved.
Yeah, even on stage, you kind of have a
little standoffish. Thanks so much, Adam.
No, I mean it's a persona.
I remember, for instance, first grade was my bad year, and I
got it out of the way.
I got it out of the way, and I still had a couple friends in my class, but it took me a while to make friends. And it was the kind of thing where my parents had to make friends with their parents, and then I became friends with Jeremy.
I had that a little bit too going on.
Right, But I remember the first half of the year, recess was this. I just hated recess because I didn't really know anyone, and so I would walk around the playground with my hands in my pockets, my sweatpant pockets, making fun of everyone in my head. I had nicknames for everyone.
Wow, this is all making sense.
Yeah, and I just convinced myself that in doing so, that made me cool. Like I was the coolest guy on the playground.
Without even having to share this.
Yeah, with no audience and no one to appreciate it, I was still like, I am the coolest guy here.
You were already writing though.
I was. Yeah, look, I was already. I do remember getting my first big laugh. Well, I'll tell you this. I remember when the hardest I ever laughed in my life was right at that age. I had a babysitter that I didn't like, and we had this brown dish rag in the kitchen, and I remember throwing it. I put the dish rag over her face, and I said diarrhea, and that was just the hardest I'd ever laughed in my entire life.
You put a dish rag on her face,
it's like that's all you need to do as a kid. I think it's the hardest I've ever laughed in my entire life.
Did you get in trouble for that with your parents later
I did
on?
get in trouble with that from my parents. I think my brother ratted me out. But I've always loved the word diarrhea.
Yeah.
I was very lonely in first grade.
Yeah.
But other than that, no huge bumps.
Maybe those two sentences are related.
It could be. It could be. But no huge bumps, no terrible bullies. Everyone had good days and bad in school, but I didn't I wasn't like a tragic youth.
What did you do
like,
for
really
fun
struggled.
when you were that age? Elementary school.
Ride my bike. I played soccer. I actually was pretty good at baseball.
Yeah.
One of my few like good sports. What about you? What did you do?
I played baseball as well.
Yeah, you seem like a baseball guy.
Yeah, I was okay.
Yeah.
I would like to have been better, but
right.
Everyone wants to be better at everything.
I know. Isn't it such a bummer now looking back? Like I stopped playing baseball freshman year of high school because that year whenever I was on the field, it was just like all I could think about was not fucking up. And it was so not fun.
Right.
That it was just like I just don't want to do this ever again. And the tragedy of life is that I would give almost anything to play high school baseball again with the confidence that I have now as an adult. And of course I'll never get that chance. There's intramural leagues, but like I'll never get that chance. And I've been watching the World Series and I'm just every goddamn game I watch, I'm like, man, I would have crushed it sophomore year if I just played.
Oh man, it's funny. Jim Brewer, the comedian, has a stand-up bit, I think, or that about how he would be awesome in Little League.
Yeah,
if he played right now,
that's really funny.
He'd be like, I kick ass right now. In Little League.
Yeah. It's a bummer that like when you're in theory doing the most fun things, which is like being a kid, you don't have the self-confidence to actually do it without worrying about who's watching you and everything.
I think baseball is also a sport where it's a weird thing with the pressure. It's really on you, and you have sort of limited chances to show yourself. If the ball might only be hit to you once, don't fuck it up.
So
you
don't
might
fuck it
get
up.
4 at-bats per game, so in 3 hours, so don't fuck those up.
And also,
whereas soccer, you're just running back and forth.
You're just running back and forth.
No one even knows
and you just kick it to someone else.
Yeah, no one knows. It's harder to...
Don't touch it with your hands.
Yeah.
It's also like, this was another thing that I always forget, again, watching professional baseball, is that when you're playing baseball, high school, middle school, whatever, you're never playing on diamonds that are good, so you're playing on uneven dirt.
So it's harder.
So it's actually harder,
right?
Because there are. I mean, I remember occasionally, I'd play shortstop, getting out there and being like, I have no idea how the ball is going to travel when it hits that patch of sand that is in the middle of this field for some reason.
Yeah, between the grass and
between the grass, or there would be grass that was entirely uneven.
Rocks.
So. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess if only I could go back in time and play Little League baseball on professional baseball diamonds.
One of these
confidence
days,
of a 33-year-old.
You can dream.
One of these days, right?
You can dream. So what about like middle school? It sounds like you did play some sports. It sounds like your town was fun. You had some family. You seemed to get along with everyone.
Yeah.
Did you get into, where were you like performing wise past once you got past the first grade, making fun of people's names in your head?
I was.
Were you performing, or were you watching comedy? What were you into?
My brother and I, we always liked stand-up. My brother and I always would watch stand-up on Comedy Central.
As you were like adolescents and whatnot.
Yeah. And then I moved. My family moved between 5th and 6th grade within Ann Arbor, but I still went to a different middle school as all of my friends.
How far?
I mean, we probably only moved, 3 miles away.
Okay.
But, a totally different middle school. So I had to like make, new friends in middle school.
I mean, people listening, that might not seem like a big 3 miles, but when you're a kid and you're with different people every day, it's a whole other world.
As a kid, this was actually kind of a weird moment. So, all you care about as a kid is like who you're comfortable around and your friends and everything.
Yeah.
And I played soccer on this league, and we had this one team that was, they were like our arch nemesis, and I hated the coach on this team.
This was a league, like a league.
Yeah, this was in a league. I was playing soccer
and you were how
in a
old?
league. Oh, this was elementary school. This was before I moved.
Okay.
And I remember visiting the new house that my parents bought, and the day we visited, I saw the coach for my nemesis soccer team lived literally right down the street. And it was I remember being tormented by that, because it was so symbolic of how disturbing this move was, that not only was I going to go to a new school, I was now in enemy territory. And I kid you not, I grew up in that house. I was a paper boy in that neighborhood. and I never saw that guy ever again. He still lived there, but I never saw him again.
Weird.
And so it was so like, it's like to this day, it's like one of these like really weird, like, he must have been a hermit or something, or like maybe he moved out eventually, but like, it was like, why did that happen to have to happen that day that I saw him? Because it crushed me for like the summer, because we hadn't moved into the house yet. And the whole summer I'm like, I'm going to move in. And then like everyone's going to bully me. Like you think for some reason that coach is going to bully you, which of course he's a grown adult. But it's like I moved in and I never saw him again.
You needed to learn that lesson that like you prejudged your experience.
Right.
What was the dislike of this other soccer coach? Was it an irrational dislike? It was just that he's the other coach, or was
I mean, you're in 5th grade, and
he wasn't,
you hate the name of the team was the Mustangs. You hate the Mustangs.
Yeah, he wasn't like objectively an asshole.
No, he was not objectively a monster. He just, I think he probably yelled more than our coach, but he wasn't like an actual jerk. No.
Yeah, well, I think he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support, Adam.
I'm glad you hated that guy.
But yeah, so middle school was good. You know, I guess I ended up kind of making friends, and you know, it was kind of one of those early moments when you realize that when you actually have to do something, you do it. Like I had to make friends because I had 3 years in middle school before I could be reunited with my old friends in high school, and so. Yeah, I was just like, all right, I guess I have to make friends. And that was sort of when I started wanting to be a comedian, because I think I felt like I was doing it by being funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was middle school.
So in middle school, is that when you did realize that you're like, I want to be a comedian, a stand-up comedian?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, like Seinfeld was like super popular.
The TV show.
The TV show was big.
But you knew I guess he was doing stand-up on the show.
He was doing stand-up on the show.
So that was part of your...
He would always start the show with, you know, his like 1 minute of stand-up. And and I was like, that guy's really cool.
Did you watch Seinfeld, the sitcom, from the very begining when it first aired? When did you start watching? I'm guessing you watched it when it was still on.
So I was I do think that people of our generation kind of fall into, were you really into Seinfeld or were you really into The Simpsons? And so I was really into The Simpsons, but still loved Seinfeld. But I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
But I could probably tell you every episode of The Simpsons through season 12.
Yeah, I'm more the other way around.
Yeah,
I have more
a lot of
encyclopedic
right. I have other friends
knowledge of Seinfeld
who were too.
But more The Simpsons, obviously, probably the first 10, 12 seasons I would be familiar. I find myself referencing Simpsons references from 30 years ago, 25 years ago, still today.
And God loves Seinfeld. It's a legend. It's great. But to me, The Simpsons seasons 2 through really 14 hold up just as well. And I do think, God love him, Seinfeld is a little dated now.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, some of the references and things like that. But even when you were first watching Seinfeld, what do you remember loving about the show when you first started to started to get hooked? What was it about the show that you...
That's a good question. It's interesting, like...
The same thing everyone loves, that it's funny.
Yeah, it was funny. I was never that into Kramer. I always thought just Jerry, George, and Elaine were funny. All my friends loved Kramer, and I was like, what do you, like, he's ridiculous. I just thought he was kind of weird.
Well, I think the
scenarios were
is a right word.
Right.
Weird is another accurate. I think I just believe that someone would do the things that Kramer does. I believe that he would do those things.
I believed that someone exists that would do those things.
I think he had, if I recall, just from hearing stories about Simon, he had like the most intense like pre-acting rituals.
And Michael Richards.
Yeah. From what I gather.
I guess the other thing is like this is the 90s. This is when, I mean, the number of actually good shows on TV you could count on like 3 fingers.
There was just less shows on TV.
It's just fewer shows on TV, but also, I mean, I watched every episode of Who's the Boss. Did I ever even crack a smile? No. Growing Pains. It's so funny to think to look back after shows like Mad Men or Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones or The Good Place or whatever. Looking back, you're like, you mean the water cooler conversations at the office on a Friday morning were about growing pains.
Yeah.
You know, that was like the biggest show on for ages. And it's looking back, you're like, it was so tepid. It's so boring. So I think there was something about Seinfeld that was like, not only was it funny, but it was like, yeah, this is an actually good show that's more than just a feel-good comedy that of Alan Thicke telling his kids everything's going to be all right, or
of course,
or Tim Allen telling his son he loves him or something. It's like,
yeah, there. I guess Seinfeld kind of did come along, I guess, around the same time as even like Roseanne, and even like what's the other one?
Yeah, Roseanne was great, by the way.
I mean, Married with Children would be an extreme version of a non-PC show,
right?
But even Seinfeld, I guess
those are two good examples. Frasier, I thought, was funny, but most shows on network TV in the '90s were just boring drivel.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Seinfeld was subversive. I would say it was maybe not even edgy, but had some aspects of those things for sure. Like they would talk about taboo topics and things like that. Dance around them, certainly.
Of course, the contest. I think the famous, I was going to say the most famous, the cliche is the contest.
The masturbation contest.
The masturbation contest.
Who could go the longest?
Who could go the longest?
Know that episode.
I mean, that's also, it's funny to think about like a network sitcom addressing female masturbation.
Yes.
Would be almost sadly vaguely controversial today. Yeah. Not controversial, but like
notable.
Notable is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's just. It's just it's crazy to think that in the 90s that we were Elaine could talk about masturbating, and I'm sure you could pitch that to a network to this day, and they'd still give you notes about can we make it that she got a massage or something?
Well, I'm firmly against it. I think we need more talk of female masturbation on television.
Adam. Absolutely, man.
I'll continue to
to really advocate for that.
Yeah, advocate. That's the right. That's the right.
That is
word.
Your hill to die on.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
What about Seinfeld's stand-up? Do you sort of see yourself? Did you learn, or were you inspired by his stand-up?
Yeah.
In any specific ways, or was it just more he was great and you loved stand-up and it just made you want to do it?
I thought he was great. And I remember buying his album and listening to it a bunch. I thought Ellen was so funny. Obviously, her show was actually great too.
Yeah, of course.
I love how I was like shitting on all of '90s TV, and then I like reference 5 shows that I love from the 90s. But
there's also many others.
Right, a lot about right. But like, I remember buying Ellen's album and just thinking her timing was so perfect. She was not only funny, but it was just like she could just pause so perfectly. And I really had such an appreciation, such a respect for that.
Yeah, no, there's some talented people out there.
Yeah,
for sure. Did you start doing stand-up in high school?
I started doing stand-up in late high school.
Where did you? And you were in Michigan still.
I was still in Michigan, so I started doing stand-up at the club.
In the colleges?
There's a comedy club called the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase in Ann Arbor, and it's been open since the '80s. And they would have open mics, so I would do the open mics.
Is it mostly college kids?
The crowds are really good. It's not mostly college kids because it's downtown, but it's not right on campus, and college kids don't really necessarily go to stand-up shows that much.
Sure.
So it's townies, but the townies are usually pretty smart. So the crowds were great. There was another show that was at a bar called the Heidelberg that I used to do, called the Tuesday Tickler, and it's so funny to look back on your first shows because you were so nervous. It would ruin your whole day if you knew you were going up that night. But of course you knew you had to do it because you wanted to do it. But now, like, looking back at the Tuesday Tickler, it was like, it was this upstairs room in this bar, and there was a staircase in the back that you could take, and you could kind of wait backstage before you got called on. And I remember just waiting there, and every time thinking, how can I get out of this? Like, how do I get out of doing this? And it's just so funny how, like, I've always been a nervous performer. I always get nervous before I go on stage, and the shows I do were obviously a little higher pressure than they were back then.
Sure.
But I'm just like, again, kind of like talking about, wish I could go back and play baseball with the confidence of, you know, a 33-year-old. I wish I could do those shows again without being so nervous, without being nauseous. And I wish I could just kind of relive those first couple of years of kind of, you know, the excitement of actually doing well and maybe getting laughs when you. So
when you were on stage, you were still nervous even during your performance.
No. Once I got on stage, I was good. But
it was hard for you to enjoy the laughs and things because although you weren't nervous, you were still
absolutely
present as much.
And that's the thing. It's like it was hard to enjoy the whole experience. I wish I had stuck around longer after the shows. I wish I had gotten to know some of the other comics better. I mean, some of my closest friends from that time period I still know and keep in touch with. But, you know, I guess it's the same phenomenon. You're just like, I wish I could do it all over again.
Was it just the reason you didn't hang around? Was it more just because you were an introvert, or you're just
kind of an introvert?
Or is it just like I didn't? What you just said. I was gonna say maybe because more like you did your thing. I'm done. It's over with. Fine. I can go relax. Like it was just like the weight off your shoulders.
Absolutely.
So a combination of those.
I also didn't start drinking until I was like 20.
Yeah, you were in high school still.
I was in high school for a while. And now I drink quite robustly, but I didn't drink until I was like 20. Yeah, basically 21. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, hanging around like a relatively loud bar just wasn't like what I wanted to do at the time.
Do you remember any of the early material you were writing? What was it about? It sounded like it went fairly well even when you first started.
Not really. I remember
given, you know, for a newcomer,
yeah, right.
Perhaps.
I had oh man, now I like hate it. I hate myself. I had a couple jokes about my parents. I had a joke about my mom. She lost her boots at work. That was one of my first jokes that my friends still quote. It never did very well, but I did always tell that story. I remember I did an impression of Red Lobster where I would bring a lemon wedge on stage, and I would say, "This is my impression of every Red Lobster commercial ever," and I would just squeeze the lemon and sing Red Lobster, because that was what the commercials. Remember the commercials for Red Lobster always had a lemon at the end?
I feel like they usually have a lemon, even in the print ads.
Even
in print ads, you see
always,
lemons.
So they used to, and I actually, I've watched the commercials for Red Lobster. They don't have the lemon like they used to. For like 6 years, every one of those commercials ended with the juiciest lemon you've ever seen in your life. Lemon wedge being squeezed over a lobster.
I hope they bring this back in their ads, just so you can have this back in your act.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I need that 30-second impression back in my act.
Maybe I'll tweet at them.
That made few people laugh, but my friends still remember. So yeah, you know, I mean, I tried to be. I remember, like, you know, wanting to be. I kind of like. I loved Todd Barry. I thought he was really cool when I started, you know, doing stand-up. Jim Gaffigan. So I kind of like wanted to be like alternative, and like, I don't need definitive punchlines. I can just say whatever. I can tell a story. You know, sort of still, that world still kind of exists.
I got you.
Alt versus, you know, I guess club comedy or whatever. But yeah,
whatever's funny.
Yeah, right. Whatever
I'm gonna
works.
laugh at.
Right.
whatever I think is funny.
Have you gone on stage? Do you do it?
No, I have not. I did take one stand-up class at like the Workaholics house, or whatever. It was fun.
Oh, okay.
But I have no plans.
The Workaholics house?
Yeah, you know, the house where they film the show.
Oh no, they have a comedy class there.
They have a class there. They do like backyard shows. They do a bunch of things.
That's funny.
Over there.
I didn't know that.
Not far from here, but I have no plans to pursue.
To pursue that.
Yeah, I'm gonna just let you guys.
We'll leave you to podcast.
Yeah, I like to talk to you guys. Yeah. I like to make jokes in the crowd after the shows.
There
and
you
before
go.
The shows.
There you go.
That's where I do.
That's great.
That's where I do my comedy.
That's where you kill.
That's
where
right.
You kill.
That's right. I destroy there for sure. What about so you're doing stand-up in high school, and where do we go from there?
So
college for stand-up.
Went to University of Michigan, and I did stand-up in college, and then after I graduated, Once again, let me remind the listeners, University of Michigan, home of the Unabomber. Gerald Ford, Madonna, and the Unabomber.
He's early. He's not your class.
Good friend of mine. Yeah, not quite my class.
Did he come back and do any?
He hasn't done any explosions. No.
I was going to say commencement speeches.
No commencement speeches.
They haven't invited him back.
I just think it's really funny because if you Google, it depends on exactly how you Google it, but if you Google famous University of Michigan alumni, you will usually get Tom Brady, Madonna, and the Unabomber. And that's above Gerald Ford. So we had a president.
Yeah.
We had a president. James Earl Jones went to Michigan. But the Unabomber still somehow always cracks the top 3.
Yeah, well, maybe he accomplished more.
Which is a bummer. I feel like they should do something about that with like some tweaking of the algorithm on Google. But
good luck with that.
One of the Google co-founders, Michigan alumni.
Oh, maybe he can be the one too. Maybe he's the one behind it.
That's what I've been saying.
It's a joke.
It's
funny to him.
I did stand up in college.
What did you study in college?
I was a general studies major, so nothing.
What did your parents think of that? What did they think when you were? What was the plan? Was there a plan, or
Yeah,
doesn't have to be.
My parents are very supportive, and the plan. All they said was just please graduate from college, and then you can do whatever you want. I was going to be a psych major because I did always like the idea of becoming like a social worker. Like that was like my backup job. I would be I would like to be a therapist, or I did at the time, and I had to take in order to get a psychology degree from Michigan, you have to take 2 years of foreign language, and for whatever reason, the foreign language classes were the hardest in college.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
I also am just so bad with languages. I took it all 4 years in high school, and I was still doing so poorly in Spanish. So I figured out that I could be a general studies major and skip Spanish. So I did that. So I changed my major after a year, and then I never looked back. But it was actually really cool because, like, at Michigan, it's a really large public school, as I think probably most people know, and as a general studies major, even though it's a garbage degree, you can take whatever classes you want. And so I did. I took law classes, I took environmental classes, I took religion classes and philosophy classes, and I guess I kind of prided myself on being someone that I think actually learned from the classes I took. I didn't always do great, but I felt like I learned a lot. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I really liked college. Where'd you go?
Syracuse.
That's where my parents met.
Oh, wow.
Syracuse University.
That's where I went.
They carved their initials into some tree on campus.
Oh, I should have.
You should have found it.
Yeah, I don't know what that. Yeah, I don't know what I could have done.
Syracuse is a beautiful campus too.
Yeah, that's why I went there.
It's great
because I like the ivy on some of the buildings.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go here.
And it's a great school. Did you like it?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Were you in a fraternity?
I was not, but I was in a house with friends, and we were kind of our own fraternity.
Yeah, for sure.
It was Animal House a little bit up in there.
So what is it, like 10,000 people go to Syracuse? It's big.
Something like, it's not huge.
It's not
nearly as big as...
Not as big as Michigan, but it's...
I forget the exact number, but it's the type of campus where it's like...
It's a lot of folks.
It's like where you walk around and you'll continually meet people, but you'll also continually run into the same people as well.
Is there anything better?
No.
There's nothing better to me. Like I obviously have some friends who did the small liberal arts school, and that felt so oppressive to me after high school. You're like, I want to be anonymous. I want to go to a school that's so big. I don't
High school is too
people.
Insular.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't even realize it at a time. You don't realize it. You're like, oh, this person's not my friend. This girl doesn't like me. These are the only friends and girls in the whole world.
And I went to a big high school. And I still was like, you hate everyone's face by the end.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
well, maybe.
Well, maybe not. You don't maybe hate everyone's face.
Yeah.
You're ready to get
enough
out.
Of their faces.
You're ready to get... Yeah, you're ready. Right. You're lukewarm on their faces.
Right.
And so, yeah, I loved that, like, the anonymity of going to a big school and, like, bumping into old friends once in a while, but also not seeing anyone you knew if you didn't really need to.
Were you doing other creative things other than stand-up? Were you involved in acting or theater or anything else like that? The arts?
I never did that. I never did
acting.
You
were just a general studies major and I did stand-up.
That
were
was
you meeting other stand-up comedians in the college and people who were...
A couple of the comics from the college that I knew, and I remember one of the only... not the only, but like some of my best friends from college that went to college with me were through stand-up, that they started doing stand-up or they came to that show, the Tuesday Tickler. So that's how I made all of my friends in college. And I had other friends that weren't going to college with me, but I was close with through the stand-up scene.
Yeah, because you went to school where you... How close did you actually grow up to the campus?
I grew up behind one of the high schools, so 2 miles.
Wow.
As a kid, like I actually walk it. As an adult, over the holidays, I still go and try to get laid at the gay bar on campus. Look at you!
Oh no!
Every Thanksgiving, and if it's open on Christmas, or when I'm home for Christmas, I go, and I these days I make, because Uber's really expensive outside of LA and New York, so like. An Uber downtown is like 2.5 miles, and sometimes it's like $25 in Ann Arbor. So I always make my dad drive me. I make him drive me to the gay bar. This is like as an adult.
What a dad.
I'm in my 30s. He drives me to the gay bar, and then I'll walk home from there because it's only 2 miles and, it's not that hard. But as a kid, as a college student, especially, or like high school, it felt like if you told me you're on campus and you have to walk home, I would say, I'm going to call 911.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And, obviously now you're like, it's literally a 35-minute walk. It's not a big deal. But, I guess when you grow up in Michigan and you're used to going everywhere in a car, that seems like an impossible distance.
I learned a lot from a lot of things you just said.
Yeah, right.
A lot was explained.
Right. I mean,
I almost wish that I was putting out this podcast around the holidays. That way we could time it and promote the
anyone
post.
Who wants to meet me at Necto on the Friday after
December 26th?
Thanksgiving.
Friday after Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's when I go. There's one gay bar in Ann Arbor. It's called the Out Bar, which is a very dated, and it's spelled A-U-T, U with an umlaut.
Yeah.
So that's how dated this gay bar is.
German.
No, it's just like it's a bunch of fags trying to be creative.
It's not hip to spell things that way anymore.
It's not hip. I mean, it's like
I wouldn't even know.
I mean, but that's like a gay bar from the 90s to me. That screams. And the Out Bar I think opened in the 90s, if not maybe the 80s. But it screams like, it's like we're here, we're queer, get used to it kind of thing, and like. The world I came out to was a little different and significantly more progressed. So
yeah, when did you come out?
I came out to like my friends and family in college.
Yeah,
it's never really been like a huge. I mean, obviously
you didn't have a party.
I didn't have a party. I had no problems coming out. My friends were really cool. My family was really cool. So
no one was surprised.
No one. People were surprised. I do skew a little straight acting.
Yeah.
But
I know I've seen your act.
Right.
Gay people won't accept me. Straight people won't accept me. No one accepts
That's exactly right. No, I get no respect.
Yeah. You're the Rodney Dangerfield. You're the gay Rodney Dangerfield.
That's right, man. But yeah, it was really easy, and I've never really, I never really made it a big part of my identity. I just go to gay bars because I want to be efficient about it. You want to be around the people that in theory want to have sex with you. They don't usually, but in theory they do.
Yeah. Why don't you tell me more about after college? What happened next?
Yeah, so then I moved to Brooklyn. I moved to Williamsburg after college. And did you ever live in the city? I know you're from Long Island.
I never lived in New York City.
You never wanted to?
I mean, everyone would want to.
Who doesn't want to? Did you come out to LA or did you stay in Syracuse for a while?
I came to LA right after Syracuse.
Oh, wow. So you've been here like a while.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Do you like it?
Yeah, well, I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can also still be here and not love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I fucking make the best of it.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I moved to New York. That was exciting.
You knew you were just to pursue stand-up.
I'd always wanted to move to New York. I think that was a Seinfeld thing too.
Yeah.
I wanted to do stand-up. And, Yeah, it was great, man.
What, did you have a day job or something? Or
I did. I was a copywriter for an online company that lasted about a year, and then I got a job at Kaplan, the test prep company.
The what?
Kaplan, the test prep company.
What do they do? Oh, the like
Princeton Review.
academics.
Yeah. SAT, ACT classes. I was in their corporate headquarters. But yeah, and I did stand up a lot in New York, and that was so fun. New York is obviously fun to live in, and like, yeah,
There's more gay bars there.
A lot more gay bars there. I remember going the first time I went to a gay bar in New York. It was, way more crowded than I was used to, and I got to the front, and I asked the bartender if I could get a pina colada, which was not usually a problem in Michigan. And I've never seen someone like ignore me more aggressively.
Why? Because it's a blender drink?
Yeah, because he doesn't want to make a pina colada. Like
was there an open mic going on or something?
No, it was a busy gay bar, and he didn't want to make a pina colada. And so I very quickly learned that I just need to order a whiskey and Coke. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done.
Is that a New York thing? Or just a busy bar thing?
I think it's just a busy bar thing. Just simple, easy to say.
I guess people forget that. I mean, you want what you want. So like, you just have to make it the next drink. But when you have a chance, can you
make me a pina colada?
Yeah.
You should try to, Adam, next time you go to a bar, you should try to order pina colada.
Yeah. I remember the first time. I was gonna say I remember the first time I went to a gay bar.
Yeah?
It was by accident.
What happened? Syracuse?
No, this was in New York. I think it was maybe in college or something. We were home, and me and some friends were like looking for a place in the city. And we're like, why don't we try one of these trendy places?
Right.
And we walk in, we order drinks.
A lot of muscular men here. That's weird.
It was kind of empty. But then we looked. Interesting. There were some images on the walls.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, wait a minute.
What was it called?
Dicks on the wall.
Dicks on the wall.
That's no, there were.
Yeah,
we're like, wait a minute.
But what was the name of the bar?
We stayed there all night.
Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. I mean, I think it was in Chelsea or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Which also makes sense.
I almost certainly had been there.
I bet.
It was so exciting moving to I remember when I moved to New York, it had 58 gay bars according to like online.
Yeah, you would know the number.
And I remember every night being like, every weekend being like, I'm going to hit a new one every weekend. I keep saying every night. And of course I didn't, but it was still really exciting to all of a sudden be in this huge world.
Were there places that you liked more than others? Were there some places like, I don't like this place because of the service or because of the people there, or because of the place, and other places that you loved because of those things?
Well, I hate them all.
Fair enough.
And some I hated less than others. And those are the ones that I went to.
You're an honest man.
Those are the ones I went to.
Yeah, it all
more
gets
frequently.
old after a while.
It really does. And I do actually. It's finally petered off, but I do like going to bars. I go to bars alone. I'll go with friends.
Yeah.
And I like the act of just going somewhere and kind of people watching.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Just to get out of the house is nice.
Absolutely.
You don't have to get wasted. It doesn't have to be meet someone. You can just have a drink and peace out.
I always feel strongly about living walking distance from at least one bar, because to me that's just critical. I need to be able to walk to something.
Yeah.
If I need, and these days
you're like my spirit animal over there.
Right. These days, like it's barely every 2 weeks I'll go alone at the end of a day to the bar down the street, but I need it there.
Yeah, no, I know it's comforting to know that.
I could never like live in the country.
No.
I have never in my life dreamed of
me neither.
Having to get in my car and driving 5 miles to get my coffee in the morning or to get a drink.
No, I rely on people too much, and I need to be around them. I can't be
me too.
Fixing my own car if it breaks down on the side of the road.
But that's always, I don't know, maybe that's more our generation than other people. And of course, to each their own. Not everyone feels that way, obviously. But yeah, I've my whole life, all I've wanted is to live downtown anywhere.
Yeah.
And I could be in a garbage town. I could be in Toledo, Ohio, and be like, ooh, let's see the downtown. Like I want to see the lofts. Of course, every city has a downtown, and there's just something about it that I'm always like enchanted by.
No, I like cities.
That. Yeah, it's a real cityscape.
Yeah, no, I hear you. What else were you doing in New York? Just pursuing stand-up?
Yeah,
Tell me more about the New York journey and where that took you.
Yeah, I just did a lot of shows. Did a couple solo shows at UCB, which was fun. But yeah, after 6 years, most of my friends had started moving out to Los Angeles, and that's when I was like, maybe I should make the move, and I came out here.
Why though?
I came out here because there's more work. There's just more stuff to do.
Right, more writing jobs.
More writing jobs, more acting jobs, more everything.
And you act also.
Yeah. And so it was, LA. It was kind of disturbing because a few months ago I've been in LA as long as I lived in New York, and New York was, I don't know if it's because it was in my early 20s or what, but like New York was, I have so many more memories of my life when I was there. Like I just remember so much, and in LA it kind of becomes a blur.
I think it's because of the lack of seasons.
That's a common theory.
You can't distinguish. Like you can say, like I remember how so and so looked and what they said to me when the leaves were falling in the park.
Exactly, very common theory.
The leaves are the same goddamn color all the time. I don't remember who said what to me in front of the leaves.
It's sunny every fucking day in this town, which is a goddamn nightmare. When it's sunny every day, that's my stance at least. I know not everyone agrees. But. Yeah, and I don't know. It's also like, you're in New York, you're getting drunk all the time with your friends. You're doing stand up at night. You have a day job, but also you almost feel like it is your job to go out and get drunk with your friends.
Yeah, because it's part of the whole stand up scene.
It's part of the stand up scene. It's also part of. I do think it's like New York is more of a drinking city. Obviously mass transit is big, and it's really easy to take.
More places in less time.
You can go to more places in less time, and
things are open later.
People
are less likely to want to be in their homes because they're smaller.
Exactly. Yeah, that too. So yeah, I think it's probably just a reflection of moving here and like kind of growing up, but.
I see.
But LA is great. It has its charm.
If you remember from when you first moved to LA, what do you remember? Like when you first got here, what were you doing? Where did you live?
I lived in Franklin Village. I still live there. I moved into a studio, but I tried to, like, at first I tried to make LA like New York, and I would like walk everywhere, and it was at the time not the kind of place you can do that. It's become way more acceptable now. The foot traffic in Hollywood has picked up a lot.
I think it's because people are Ubering and lifting, and then they're walking to their Ubering liftings, and they're sharing. You know what I mean? I think that has contributed
that could be part of it. Yeah, I mean, I think they've built a lot of housing, and I mean, yeah. Like Hollywood is nothing like what it was when I moved. Hollywood was kind of vacant and decrepit when I moved, and it's become
only decrepit.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's become,
it's getting there.
It's getting there. It's become, like I said, foot travel is up. I think tourism is up. Anyway. Yeah. So I'm actually thinking about getting rid of my car so I can like just walk everywhere.
Look at you.
Yeah, look at me. I'm an environmentalist.
Look at you.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm a great guy.
So you were doing stand-up, I'm guessing, when you first...
I've been doing stand-up ever since. Yeah, of course, ever since I started. It's a totally different scene out here than it is in New York.
How so?
Well, New York, people watch shows in New York. Comics here kind of like want to go first and they leave. If you go last, none of the comics are usually there.
Yeah.
You could do a great show and it doesn't necessarily lead to other great shows.
Yeah.
Whereas like in New York, it's like if you killed at one show, that probably meant someone at that show was like, you should do my other show. And you would have another show or get other bookings from it. And so
doesn't that happen here too, but just not as easily?
Not as easily, yeah.
Not as often.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely not as often.
Yeah.
And there aren't as many shows here, and they're all kind of spread out, and sometimes they're at shitty venues. But, there's still fun ones here and there. Not always, but here and there.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. And what about working and writing outside of stand-up, and how's that been?
It's been good. I freelance. I pick up writing jobs whenever I can. And So yeah.
What are some of the notable jobs that you've had, or even
right
gigs that you've had stand up wise?
I mean, I wrote for HBO's Crashing. I wrote for a kid show. I sold a show with a friend of mine to Apple last year. I opened for David Cross and Bob Odenkirk.
That's awesome,
this year
man.
at Largo, which was really cool.
That was this year?
That was this year.
What's that like? Did you know those guys beforehand?
I didn't know them beforehand. They were super nice, obviously. I think the world of both of them.
Where were those shows?
Largo,
Nice.
which is such a great venue if you've never been and you live in LA. So, those are the fun ones. And then, sometimes you have really fun shows that are not with David Cross and Bob Odenkirk at Largo. Yeah. It's like, fun ones all the time.
What makes a show not fun? I mean, is it just that the crowd you're not doing well? Does that makes a show not
sure.
fun?
I mean, I also think if you've been doing it long enough, it becomes a war, it becomes a battle, and you get distracted with things. Like sometimes I have to remind myself that people are there to have fun, and
right.
that in a weird way, they almost in your head sometimes can become the antagonist, where if they like a comic that you don't like, if the crowd likes a comic, if the crowd doesn't like your new stuff and you do, if the crowd doesn't like your old stuff but likes your new stuff. It's like if you've been doing it long enough, and maybe if you're as cantankerous as I am, you can kind of get frustrated and find fault with crowds sometimes.
And even if these are things I'm guessing that you don't even always express to your two other comics or to people, it's just things that you're dealing with.
Sure, of course.
Throughout an evening while you're doing a show. And it sounds like it might be harder for you to even get excited about sort of maybe smaller gigs. Like it's, compared to if you're doing a small show or something compared to opening for David Cross. It might be harder to be excited for it, but you have to remind yourself that those people are, like you said, there to have fun too. For
sure, man. I mean, to me, a show is a show. I never say no when someone asks me to do a show. Well, very rarely. And will I say no to a show? So, I try to I try to have fun, but sometimes you get on cruise control and you just kind of show up, you do the same thing you did last time. And I released an album like a year and a half ago, and for about a year in 2018, I was like really good at like writing new stuff, and I was like, I'm going to release another album soon. And then I just got really lazy, and I've been a lot lazier about writing new things and doing new things when I got on stage. And so
it's an ebb and flow, I suppose.
There is an ebb and flow, and sometimes you just kind of have to like snap yourself out of it and like just make yourself, I guess do it again and care again.
You'll get there.
I guess so. I hope so.
I'll make you. I'll be like,
oh,
if I
good.
see any
Thanks,
repeat
Adam. I appreciate that.
I'll, if I don't hear new material,
all right. Yeah, you can feel free to punch me in the face.
Yeah, I'll hold you accountable. Random question. I guess not random, but have you ever seen Seinfeld perform live?
No, I've never.
Have you ever met him or anything like that?
Never have. I know I missed him once at a venue called the Creek in the Cave in Queens. I missed him by like an hour or something. I guess he dropped by. And so that was kind of a bummer. You don't really want to meet your heroes, so I don't think I would say anything to him.
Yeah, that was my next question. If you saw him, if you had the opportunity to say something to him in passing, what would you say? And if you actually had this chance to sit down with him for like dinner or lunch or something and hang out, what do you imagine that conversation would be like?
Well, if it was just in passing, I certainly wouldn't say anything. I don't know. I mean, it's like if I were to get dinner with the guy, I don't know. I've always kind of done this. I don't like coming across as a fan, even if I am a fan.
Yeah.
So I think I would just shoot the shit and chat with him and see if we actually were similar people. Like I thought we were in 1997 when I was watching his show.
Yeah, I think for you it would be like an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Sure. I need
it would be just you
about
on an
a million
episode
more famous notches, but yeah.
For me, it would be a fan getting coffee with Seinfeld.
Right. Yeah. What would you say to him?
What would I say to him? I would say, yo, your show was funny, man. Yo, you a funny dude.
I'm sure he'd love that.
And then I'd ask him about. We'd probably talk about the Mets, actually.
I'm sure.
Most likely is what we would talk about.
I think the Mets is a better.
How do we fix the Mets bullpen going into 2020?
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We covered a lot. We
covered all the bases. We talked about my entire life.
We covered Michigan. We covered
Michigan. We covered Brooklyn. We covered diarrhea.
Gay bars in multiple cities.
Did we talk about diarrhea?
We did talk about
I think
diarrhea.
that's the part you're going to take out. So we didn't talk about diarrhea extensively.
There's still time.
But there's still time. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media? If you got any shows upcoming or anything. I think I'm going to put this out. Today's what, the 20...
Today is the 28th.
28th. So I'm going to put it out a week from whatever this weekend is.
All right, cool. You can find me on social media, Mr. Brent Sullivan. I host a podcast with a couple of my friends called You're Making It Worse. Check that out. You can find that on iTunes. And that's it. Thanks
Mr. Brent Sullivan?
Mr. Brent Sullivan.
Cool.
Thanks, Adam.
You got it. So there you have it. My conversation with Brent Sullivan. I wish him much luck at the bars in Ann Arbor over the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. And then again, I assume at Christmas time. Seriously. That was a ton of fun, and I again thank Brent for his time. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.